So you totally blew it out. You went totally off the hinges, totally off the rails. So now what do? I think that if, any of us out there who have been on some long fat loss journey where you've been dieting for a while, you're trying to lose fat, whatever the case may be, we've all been here, man. This has happened to every single one of us. And it actually just happened to me yesterday. And I'm not a robot, man. Like, I make mistakes too. I'm a human being, and I definitely make mistakes. And I do things that I didn't really plan on doing. I mean, I'd like to think that discipline is one of my calling cards, but I still mess up, man, from time to time. And for those of you guys that are following me on Instagram, you know that about a week ago I started this 21-day mini cut. Well, that 21-day mini cut just turned into like a 35 or 42-day mini cut. And I've actually been kind of chronicling the whole process on my Instagram story. So you can actually check it out now if you go to Instagram at jschultzf3. I've been saving each day. So you can see the fallout yesterday for yourself. I ended up having I think I hit about almost 5,000 calories yesterday. And my maintenance level is 2,400. And on most days, I try to get to, I'm usually somewhere between 1,700 and 2,000. And so it's not as bad as it's been in the past. I mean, there have been days in the past where I've cleared 8,000, 10,000, 12,000. I mean, easy. I mean, you think that's hard to do. That is not that hard to do. And so I've done that in the past. And so within the context of my own kind of, blowouts, it definitely wasn't planned for. It wasn't accounted for, but it's pretty manageable within the grand scheme of things. And honestly, I'm at home by myself. Autumn's actually in Memphis. I've been watching the kids. I watched them all day yesterday. And so my eating so much food was actually a combination of two things. Number one, it was stress. And number two, honestly, it was fun, man. Like, I was hanging out with my daughter, Penelope, after Eli went to bed, and we were just having fun, being goofy, eating food, and I was like, yeah, I kind of just want to keep eating, and so I did, and that's it. But anyway, enough about me. I want to talk about you guys. I want to try to help you guys out. So you've blown it out, right? You're just totally off the hinges. You've blown it out of the water. You've blown it out of the water. Now what are you going to do? Well, I think there's basically three things that you could do. There's basically three different approaches that you could take. This is, of course, assuming that you still want to try to lose fat. This is, of course, assuming that your goal after said blowout is you want to get back on track. I mean, there are times, in my own life, and there are instances with others that I've seen where they've just, kind of had an off day and they're like, I'm done, man. I don't want to diet anymore. I don't want to do it anymore. And hey, man, I can appreciate that. And I can relate to that because I've experienced that. But assuming you want to get back on the wagon, here's what you could do. The first thing you could do if you wanted to is you could just go super low for the next 1 or 2 days or 3 days, or whatever the case may be. You could just go ridiculously low, and you would bring everything back into line, assuming that you can do that in a very, very short amount of time. I don't think you should do that. There's only one case where I think you might want to consider that, and I'll get into that here in a second. But I don't think that you should do that. And here's the reason why. You probably feel bad. You probably feel guilty. You probably feel kind of ashamed for having blown it out. And you feel like, oh man, I'm a failure. I'm this, I'm that. I can't do this. I'll never do this. These are real feelings, man, that people have. I've had them myself, and I've seen so many other people have them. Well, here's what happens. If you go super, super low, psychologically, it's kind of like you're punishing yourself. It's kind of like you're punishing yourself for being human. It's kind of like you're punishing yourself for just making a mistake that we all make. And so I don't like that approach because the emotional element, the psychological element, I think that really sets a lot of people up for this cycle that is just binge punishment, binge punishment. And I've seen that happen too often, and I've been trapped in that cycle many times myself in the past. And it is not a fun place to be. So I wouldn't do that. The second thing you could do is you could actually, let's say you overate by, 2,000 calories, right? Or 3,000 calories. You could say, all right, I'm going to trim by 200 or 300 calories every day for the next couple of weeks. That will also bring you back in line. I would only suggest you do that, of course, if you track your macros, if you count your calories. If you do that and that sounds manageable to you, then I say go for it. I don't really necessarily have a problem with that. I think that that's fine. I think it's a little bit more effective if you only overate by, let's say, like 1,000 calories or 700 calories. If you overate by, like, 3,000 calories, kind of like I did yesterday, I don't like the approach of trimming 300 calories every day for 10 straight days. It's a little bit too long of a span of time. It's a little bit too long of a stretch. I don't really like that approach necessarily for trying to recover from what happened. But you could do that. The last thing you could do, and this is my favorite approach, is this. Just get right back on track, man. Just get right back on track with whatever your plan has been, whatever your plan is in the moment. Almost like you pretend like it never even happened. And I like that approach for a couple of reasons. Number one, it definitely happened. And your body weight is going to remind you that it happened. And you're probably going to feel bloated. You're probably going to have some GI issues. You're probably going to be holding a bunch of water. You're going to look kind of puffier. You're going to know that it happened. But I like the approach of just saying, all right, man, I'm going to breathe. I'm going to relax. I'm going to get back on track. And I'm just going to get back to my plan, because when it comes to losing fat, when it comes to dieting for a long stretch of time, when it comes to losing that 20, 30, 40 pounds that you have yet to lose, that you want to lose, that you've been dying to lose, you've got to deploy patience. You've got to exercise some patience, and you've got to remember that consistency is the key. Consistency and patience. And so by doing that, you're not punishing yourself. You're not going to get caught in this cycle. You're just going to say, hey, man, I made a mistake. Hey, man, I messed up. And you know what? It's okay. It's okay. I messed up. I'll get it back. It's just going to take me a little bit longer. It's going to take me a little bit more time, but I'm not going to put myself in a situation where I'm binge and punishment. Binge and punishment. I'm just not going to do that to myself, man, because it's not worth it. So maybe it takes me an extra week. Maybe it takes me an extra couple of weeks to, get where I want to go. That's okay. Unless you have a hard deadline, that's perfectly fine. This isn't a race. I know some of you are thinking, Jim, I got a hard deadline, man. Like, I got to lose this weight now. Like, yeah, I got it, man. I understand. But take a little bit extra time, breathe, relax, and just remind yourself, man, that it's going to be all right. Patience and consistency. Now, the only time that I would consider going super low for like 1 or 2 days after that would be this. If you have experience with super low days. Like for me, for example, when I'm doing a competition, right? And normally when I'm in competition season, that's when my discipline is pretty strong and it usually is intact. I don't have too many episodes like I had yesterday. But let's say I did. Doing carb cycling for some extended period of time and kind of being used to what a low day feels like makes that a more plausible plan of action, in my opinion. Because you're like, all right, man, I've done this. I've done this dozens of times over the course of the last couple of months, hundreds of times, maybe thousands of times in my career. So I know what it's going to feel like. I know it's going to be hard. I know how to mentally ready myself for that. But if you're not used to low days, if you don't know what that's going to feel like, if you just think, oh yeah, I'll just eat 800 calories for the next few days and get it all back, that is going to surprise you. That is going to shock you. And you're probably going to walk away feeling pretty bamboozled, man. You're probably going to walk away just saying, oh man, that was way harder than I thought it was going to be. And you're probably going to mess up again. If I had to bet, you're probably going to slip up again. And then that nasty cycle just ensues, man. So you've had a blowout, right? This is something we can all relate to. You've got 3 plans of attack, one of which I think is far better than the other 2. But the other 2 do have their time or place. So that's it, guys, man. Hopefully this was helpful for you guys. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow me on social media at jschultzf3, Twitter, Instagram. Remember, on Instagram, on my story, I am going through that 21 that has now turned into a 42 or maybe 49-day mini cut because of yesterday. So you guys can follow me there. You can like this Facebook page. We do live fitness Q&As every Tuesday night. We got all kinds of stuff coming on down the chutes. It's a good time to be alive. F Cubed is alive and happening. And man, I appreciate you guys so much. God bless. We'll see you guys next time.